let's go up to Turin and Roma's cross-city rivals as Juve beat Lazio 1-0. And this game was a little bit of chaos. Romagnoli, the kind of key point here, Romagnoli was sent off for a last-man tackle, a lot of them this weekend.
Yeah.
On VAR, there's an angle where it kind of looked like he got the ball.
I know what you mean, yeah.
It wasn't clear enough, so I understand it was a red card, right? And it's like the Kalulu, who is the furthest player forward running through the pitch for whatever reason, would have been
striker
now.
Into the He's a striker,
box.
Why not?
yeah. But Vlahovic can't hit a barn door. Can you go up there, please? But he was running into the box. It was taken out. I do have a doubt about whether Romagnoli got a touch on the ball first, but it's a red card. And then from here on in, the game completely changes. Obviously, Lazio go down to 10 men. They have to shift, and it is very much attack versus defence. But the issue here, and what has been the main talking point, is what happened before that red card. In the Lazio box, Douglas Luiz, it seemed punched. Who is it? Fabian? No.
It was Patrick.
No, who did he punch? Patrick, that's it. He didn't seem to. He punched Patrick. But it wasn't reported to VAR, or VAR didn't check it. The ref wasn't told, or the ref, I don't know. But there was a complete breakdown of communication, and this wasn't punished. Now, obviously, this is a huge moment because that happens before Lazio go down to 10 men. Juve had a pretty shocking record at home. Like before this, their only win at home was against Como. They've not been free scoring. This is a game that Lazio really would have felt like they could have won.
Yeah.
The fun thing was Fabiani, who is their sporting director, and I love this about Italian football. I wish we got directors of football on Match of the Day after games to complain. But on the novantesima minuto, like their version of Match of the Day on a Saturday night, he was interviewed and he said, why did VAR not check Luis? Loro prendono un caffè. Were they away taking a coffee? I don't know why they weren't watching. They were kind of questioning him and being, oh, come on, be reasonable. There's only one angle. And he's like, yeah, there's only one angle. There are more cameras in this stadium than there is in the rest of Europe, and we can only see one angle. Like, this is a crime. I don't know why. And they were really trying to calm him down, but it wasn't working. And he was like really insistent with it. But I think he's got a point, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is as clear a violence off the ball red card moment as you're going to get, right?
Yeah, it's another moment where Juventus fans will probably call it #Marotta League, right? But it is very much a case of same stadium again, where VAR should be utilised to really highlight, I suppose, how bad that decision really was. Luis, again, this is the second time he's almost got away with a situation like this, because there was, I can't remember which game it was now, but he obviously gave away the penalty against Calgary, right? And then prior to that, he also did something with a team where he kind of did similar circumstances where he got away with not getting potentially a second yellow card. So he's not having a good time. And it was also confirmed earlier today that him and his girlfriend, let me get right, Alicia Lehman, have had their house burgled in Turin. So he's not having a great time in Turin, it's fair to say. Who would have guessed that Birmingham's more safer than Turin? I wouldn't have said that myself before.
Italians and robbing footballers is like a national hobby. It's insane. Even during the Napoli-Empoli game, is it Patrick Kendrick was talking about how often Napoli players get robbed. It just happens all the frigging time here. But Italy's a great country, guys. I'm telling you, it's beautiful.
Apart from that, it's all fine, right?
But I think there's a lot of Juve fans that aren't particularly happy with Douglas Luiz's start in a Juve shirt. He's not been impressive at all, and this is another moment where he could have cost his game. He could have cost his team a lot of points, but it wasn't to be. Lazio did go down to 10 men, and then Juve basically just bored everyone to death in failing to hit the target. I think we have to give Lazio a lot of credit in the way they defended, the commitment. They are like a really hard team to beat. And like Barone has got them really well drilled. They're really they even still had a few chances, not many, but they had one or two chances where they were kind of trying to get forward. But all this just screamed to me that Juve just do not have enough imagination or creativity throughout this team. And again, all the talk around this from a Juve point of view seems to be we need to sort out the defence. We need to get another defender in. We need defensive cover. But their defensive record actually is very good this year, right? The defence has not been an issue. Their issue is they cannot score goals and they're far too predictable. And I think the only way, like, obviously the goal that finally comes is kind of cross across the box. The defender sticks a foot out. It's really unlucky. It's an own goal. Without that, this game finishes 0-0 because there was no way Juve was scoring in a month of Sundays. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, Adam, why do you think that Motta is just not able to get the attacking potential out of this team? Is it a lack of personnel? Is it like them not being varied enough? I feel like he's just, again, it's only 8 games in, so you have to but they really should be getting more.
Yeah, they seem to lack a creative spark, don't they? They just seem to lack someone that can just do something out of the ordinary in that respect. And I don't think it's helped by the system that they're playing, because although we know about how fluid Motta likes to have his players so they can adapt to different formations and different styles of play, for example, I feel at the moment they are playing to the narrative of having Dusan Vlahovic, who, as a club, they need to justify the money that they've spent for him, right? So, but equally, there's a combination of he's not necessarily getting the service, but also he's not helping himself in the positions that he's choosing, for example. I think he's not being one or the other in terms of the type of striker he is. So we don't know if he's kind of waiting to latch on to bits, or is he the one that's going to try and create those moments? And he's sort of floating between the two, so we don't quite know. And I think maybe his teammates don't actually know what to expect from him, right? So I think that's probably an element of it. But also, like you say, it took a cross that was kind of sliced by Mario Gila to actually score that goal. That suggests to me that they've got no idea apart from get it into the box. A few weeks ago, I talked about the element of Koopmeiners being lost in that midfield and not being able to maybe get himself onto the ball and maybe be an influence for the team. And I think that's the problem, is that you've got some talented players, but they're still trying to work out each other and transition in terms of their style of football. So I think there's a combination of different things. The point about defensive element, I think they're only trying to get someone in to kind of have as a backup to obviously Gelson Bremer, who obviously he's out for the rest of the season. But to your point, I think they really need to look at the kind of creative outlets from the wings position, as well as maybe someone to challenge Dusan Vlahovic. I know obviously a lot was maybe speculated about Milik's kind of fitness, and perhaps maybe that's the reason why they haven't gone into the marketplace. But you can imagine they will address that in January. The problem, I would say, Rory, is who are they likely to bring in that's going to be available that could score goals, for example? I don't see that necessarily being this window. I think it will be more likely to be addressed in the summer. And if they're going to get someone in, it's going to be a temporary fix. It's going to be someone that potentially this player will not be wanted by the other club. So it might be a case of he'll need a few games to get to fitness and to the ways of working. So I think I've always said this at the beginning, I felt Juventus is always going to be in a transition season. They haven't got the depth, right, Rory? But I think this really does highlight, I suppose, some of the issues that Motta is going to have to address. And let's not forget about this element. When Motta's been at places like Spezia, like Bologna, where he's managed to get a tune out of them, it's happened over a number of seasons. It's not happened straight away. So I think the expectation is higher. He's getting results, albeit not fashionably in the style of football that many maybe want. But equally, look, I think he's got challenges. I think he's having to deal with the politics of Juventus, and then you've got also the kind of availability of players that he's got to work with. And it takes a lot to rely on kids, ultimately, Rory.
Well, this is it. They are kind of changing their direction, right? And even like the players that came off the bench, you've got Adzic, you've got Fagioli. Like these are players that have come through the club, and they're obviously trying to switch to this kind of focus. But yeah, I feel like the lack of creative spark in that midfield, like Luis isn't a particularly creative midfielder. He's like, defensive, he'll run, decent passing range. Thuram is kind of the same, and then Locatelli isn't that, like, he's not a number 10, like, and I think there's just not that spark in midfield to kind of make you unpredictable. So it meant that for Lazio, it was fairly easy going up until it wasn't, right? But I think we have to give them some credit. They did play incredibly well with the fact that they were down to 10 men. Tavares didn't get an assist. And Providel had a difficult night, but did make some good saves. I feel like his form has been off and on this year, but this was one of his better games, so maybe he's getting back to where he was. But Juve do get the 3 points, and that keeps them within the touching distance of the top, as they are now on 16 points, only 3 points behind Napoli and 1 point behind Inter.